Despite mistakes and failures post-Bondi and a potential rate increase next month, the Albanese government has somehow strengthened its hand by doing nothing after the opposition self-immolated yesterday. Joining us live now this morning, the National Senate Leader Bridget McKenzie. Bridget, thanks for your time this morning. So Sussan Ley has said this morning that the door is open for potential reunification. Is that really likely?
Well, great to be with you, Pete. The National Party room made a decision about Labor's extremely poorly drafted legislation. We sought to get to an accommodation with the government through the negotiations with the Liberal Party, and I believe everybody behaved in good faith through those negotiations. But we as a party room weren't able to reach agreement in that very truncated, Labor-determined time frame. And we believe that principle shouldn't trump, principle should always, trump good lawmaking in that moment. So we moved amendments on the floor of the Senate to sunset, to change the objects of acts so it was only physical harm, to get a Senate inquiry so that legal fraternity, intelligence experts, human rights advocates could all have a public say and debate about how to get these laws right so that we can list hate groups in a way that doesn't harm and minimise the needs for free speech. But Pete, so there's a lot of debate about, conservatives, free speech. Conservatives, which the National Party is the Conservative Party of government in our parliament, obviously there has to be always limits on the very worst of human behaviour. That's why these need to be conversations and laws that are
but
very carefully thought out.
Back to the
point.
So
we did our principle. We behaved on principle, and Sussan was absolutely within her right as the Leader of the Opposition to accept our offers to resign as the senators that voted for that. And that was in line with our party's position.
Okay.
And she did that.
But she said this morning that reunification is possible, that her door still remains open. I mean, is that likely before the next election?
Well, I'm a coalitionist, Pete. I always prefer to take it up to Labor. But at the end of the day, you've got to act on principles. So I've worked with a range of leaders. I've worked with a range of leaders in my time in and out of cabinet, Malcolm Turnbull, Scott Morrison, Peter Dutton and Tony Abbott, and Sussan Ley. I would never be closing the door on a coalition reforming either. But as it stands as of today, our room has determined that we are no longer in a coalition with the Liberal Party, and we're proceeding appropriately from there.
Was this really worth blowing up the coalition, though, and ensuring that you're staying in opposition now for an even longer spell?
And, Pete, I think that's the reality for National Party staff and shadow ministers and our supporters, and our room was very, very clear when we made the decision to vote against the bill if amendments couldn't get up and changes be made, that there were going to be quite significant consequences. And it wasn't just consequences for the coalition and the opposition, but it was consequences at a personal level for both the shadow ministers themselves.
Well, you're not going to be able to trust
particularly
each other
and concerningly our staff. So that's that's where we're at. I can only be honest with you,
Okay,
Pete.
well, on that point then, I mean, if this stays, would you not lose the number 2 position on the joint Senate tickets in Victoria and New South Wales, so you might be in personal trouble next time around?
Well, all of the potential impacts of the party room's decision were made clear to the party room in that moment and on that day. So the room made the decision knowing all the potential impacts. And that's, I'm not going to reveal who said what when and we had 10 meetings over a week to try and land this plane. We took a principled position knowing the consequences and
that you might be in personal trouble next time around.
Pete, I can't be clearer. All the potential consequences of breaching the coalition were canvassed and known to the whole room when the room made the decision.
Did you do this with One Nation in mind?
Again, principled decision, whether it was the sunset clause, whether it was changing the objects of the Act to focus it only on hate groups around physical harm, whether it was the Senate inquiry for 4 weeks to make sure we could get these laws right and get the legal fraternities' opinions, as I've stated, or whether it was actually to only list hate groups when you have an absolute majority of both chambers of Parliament. We tried very hard to get the right outcome.
So, but sure, but would you follow Barnaby to One Nation if you're asked?
I'm a nat, mate.
Not going to go?
I am absolutely no.
Okay.
No,
So,
I believe in being a party of government.
Then you might be looking for work.
Pete, I've been in politics a long time and I don't think you should make decisions based on personal impact. I think at the end of the day, I made a decision a long time ago as a Conservative to join the only Conservative party of government because I actually wanted to make difference to people's lives, not joining parties of protest.
So, OK, a quick ones I'm trying to sneak in here because I've only got a short amount of time, but there are questions now around Sussan Ley's leadership, obviously, right? Similar questions for David Littleproud too. Do you support him staying on as leader?
Well, of course, like the party room is dealing with the fallout of quite a traumatic period. Yeah, people have lost their jobs.
Despite the second breakup, so there's been 2 marriage breakups now that have been triggered by him. You've got Barnaby who's left. You've got Jacinta Price who's left. I mean, questions again for David Littleproud. So you're still standing by him?
The party room is dealing with the fallout, Pete. I'm not receiving calls from National Party MPs seeking a spill on David Littleproud. I'm taking calls from staff and from MPs and senators who are grappling with the reality of this. And as you just heard, your listeners have just heard from Lou O'Brien, one of our party room who voted against the legislation. His community is backing him 100%. Right. So we've done the right thing. We've stuck by our principles and Australians should expect more of that from their politicians.
What do you say to someone like the elder statesmen like John Howard, John Anderson, you know, these legends of the Conservatives who say this is a big mistake, and they've said this before in the past too. What do you say to that?
Well, I'd ask them, would they be voting against their party room decisions? So at the end of the day, it's all great for commentators who aren't in the room anymore or aren't in Parliament anymore grappling with today's reality. We were faced with a dog of a bill. We made it better through negotiations, but we were still unable to vote for it. And I tell you what, Pete, let's see if this bill does deliver a plane load of hate preachers leaving our shores, as was promised, because that will be the ultimate, demonstration that it was worth it.
Did you have a stiff drink last night?
I had a swim.
I'm serious.
No, I wouldn't be looking as bright and cheery this morning if I had have.
OK. Bridget McKenzie, appreciate it as always. Thank you. We'll chat to you soon.